Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be sitting in for Larry this Saturday. And Larry, I'm happy to tell you we'll be back next week. But I will be with you until 1 o'clock. And by the way, it gives me an opportunity to plug my program, which is heard every Sunday from 12 noon until 2 p.m. And who am I? Well, Bob Grant. Some people might be saying, he doesn't have to say that. We know. We recognize that voice. The important thing, though, is that you are tuned in to your WABC New York weekend, regardless of who's behind the microphone. And I want to tell you I enjoyed listening to Mark Simone just prior to this broadcast. And Ann Coulter, if you're listening, what happened last week? You didn't show up. Anyway, that was just a personal message to the great Ann Coulter. Where do we begin? I mean, there's so many things really to talk about. There always are. There always are many things to talk about. The trouble is, do we really talk about them? Do we really think about what we're saying? People do ask me, what's wrong? What's wrong with the United States? Well, you know, the first tendency we all have is to blame the politicians. But since we do believe in a free and open election, forgetting about the chicanery of Acorn and other such nefarious outfits, the majority of the voters are responsible for whoever is in office. I make no secret of my contempt for the 44th President of the United States. No secret at all. Why should I? This is the United States, is it not? Well, America's first major problem is that we have forgotten our roots. Too many of us don't know or don't feel connected to those who founded this once great republic. A national survey, get a load of this, a national survey commissioned by the U.S. Mint found that only 30% of Americans, only 30% knew that Thomas Jefferson was our third president, and only 7% could name the first four presidents in order. And if you're part of the 93%, well, I'll be happy to tell you. There were George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. And a lot of people think that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Constitution because he is credited with authoring the Declaration of Independence. But I'll tell you, I won't keep you in suspense. The fourth president, not the third, the fourth president is the one who wrote the Constitution. Did you forget his name already? His wife's name was Dolly. That's right, Dolly Madison. Whatever happened to Dolly Madison ice cream, by the way? I used to see it in the supermarkets. Don't see it anymore. How banal can you get, Grant? You're talking about the great James Madison. You remember his wife's name was Dolly, and well, they like to use Dolly's name for a lot of things because she was considered the greatest hostess of those early post-colonial days. But getting back to the more serious subject, the fact is that most Americans don't have a clue why our founders created this country, what principles motivated them, or why they framed our Constitution the way they did. You know, as citizens of this great country, we need to renew our understanding of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We need to examine other important documents of our history. Oh, he said the word history. I remember when I was in school, someone mentioned history and they would roll their eyes. I loved the history classes. As a matter of fact, I'll make a confession. Confession is good for the soul. My soul is going to be cleansed right this moment. When I was in college, living in the fraternity house, which was a great experience, I'll tell you, I would write history papers for some of my brethren, some of my fraternity brothers. I would write the history. And I loved it. They would thank me. I wasn't doing them a favor. They were doing me a favor. Of course, on the other hand, we traded off some subjects. I won't go into that. Folks, as citizens of this once great republic, we really need to examine other important documents of our history. Now, you might have thought, that mattered then, but you have to understand that it matters now. If Americans don't know their constitutional history, then they won't care or even acknowledge that our history of liberty is being transformed. And so here we are, being turned into a socialist pauper nation by a man who warned us. Hey, one thing you'd say about Barack Obama, he warned us. He said on the campaign trail in virtually every appearance, quote, "We are going to change America as it's never been changed before." He wasn't kidding. But people thought, that's campaign talk. That's campaign talk. By the way, speaking of President Obama, they finally released a photo of him smiling at that couple that crashed the party. And that's what they did. They crashed it. There's a club of people who have crashed various affairs, and they consider that an art form. It's really something to get in some place that you're not supposed to be. But they did, and naturally, the media has made much too much of it. Nobody came in with a gun. Nobody came in with criminal intent. I think they ought to be questioned, but I don't think it was all that serious, any more than I think it was all that serious that the great Tiger Woods was in a minor accident. I suspect there are a lot of people who, when they hear of a famous person, a very wealthy, very famous, very talented person, when they hear of anything inside, way down deep, because of their jealousy, they want it to be terrible. Associated Press had the first report that he was in critical condition. There was a major accident. It wasn't a major accident. It may turn into a major mystery. Why was Mrs. Tiger Woods out there with the golf clubs? Why did she have to break the rear window to let him out? The car wasn't damaged that badly, but I don't want to get sidetracked with something that really isn't all that important. There's so many important things to talk about here on the Larry Kudlow program, and I know Larry is well respected on Wall Street. As well he should be. And I remember a couple of years ago there was a situation that had developed, and I asked Larry, not on the radio, but privately, for his thoughts. He shared them with me, and by golly, he was right. If you want to join in, by the way, this is an open forum. Anybody can get in. You don't have to sneak in. You don't have to pretend you got an invitation. You just call the phone number, 848. Of course, it's 100, 800, 848 WABC. 800-848-9222. And we will be picking up those telephones straight ahead. But right now, let's go to Steve Michaels and see what's going on in the wonderful world of traffic. All right, forging ahead here on the Larry Kudlow program. Bob Grant sitting in for Larry. Larry will be back next Saturday. I want to pick up the telephone and do something that, have I ever done this before? Have I ever taken phone calls on it? Anyway, stop being so silly. Let's say hello to Julius from North Bergen, New Jersey. Welcome to WABC's New York Weekend.
Good morning, Mr. Grant. It's nice to have you back. Bob, you know, you're a student of history, and I know you like to talk about the Constitution and the early founding fathers, but we have to get the record straight here, that the American Constitution was not an original document. It had its precedents in the Roman Constitution, and in fact, the Roman Constitution in some ways was better because they had elections every year. For instance, they had two consuls, which were really two presidents, and they elected their tribunes, which was really the cabinet, so in some ways the American Constitution, we like to praise it as though it was an original document, but Madison, John
the concept was original when it happened, Julius, and to go into such nooks and crannies like citing the use of tribunes who were really senators, that's fine. That shows that you have a knowledge of Roman history, and I salute you for that. Thank you very much, Julius. Let's go to Cedar Grove, New Jersey. I believe that's considered the heart of Essex County. Say hello to Tom. Tom, you're on WABC.
Hi, Bob. What a wonderful surprise to hear you on Saturday mornings. I normally hear Larry Kudlow, and of course sometimes I watch him on CNBC. And I'm just thrilled, like a lot of your listeners are, to hear you're back on the whole weekend. And I'm just curious, are you planning to be on WABC more often? Because we do miss you 5 days a week. Once a week is not enough. I don't mean to.
No, I have. First of all, no, it's Tom. Tom, I have no plans, and if I did, it wouldn't be up to me. You see, people get confused, especially when a person is a popular talk show host or whatever he might be. They think, that guy's so big, he calls the shots. No, we don't call the shots. So I have no plans right now. I must tell you, Tom, I am enjoying doing that Sunday program from 12 to 2. And I have no plans other than what I'm doing.
I wanted to know, Bob, with the state of the economy being what it is, and this president that we have who doesn't seem to be very capitalist friendly, putting it frankly, do we have a chance to survive? Is my retirement going to go down the tubes? Because it really concerns me.
Well, it should concern you because the dollar is worth less and less as we speak. It has diminished so much exponentially since this man has taken office and instituted the socialist programs. And I tell you this, if this health care bill does pass and does become the law of the land, then it's truly sayonara, arrivederci, auf Wiedersehen, and so long schnooks. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call, Tom. John from Belmar, New Jersey. Hello, John.
Hello, Bob. Listen, I just want to touch base with you. Remember in 1998 at Wall Township, I was with you. I went through with all your friends that were there. 98, Wall Township, New Jersey.
What about it?
Well, I was with you all day. I don't know if you even remember. Maybe I didn't make any kind of...
No, John, I'm not going to be phony and say, oh, yeah, I remember. I don't, John.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that slight reminiscence. Let's go to Dave. Dave, you're on WABC. Go ahead, please. Are you there, Dave? All right, I don't hear Dave. Let me try Bill in Manhattan. Yes, Bill. Hello, Bill. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm Bill Smith.
All right, go ahead, please.
Sure. I tell you where I'm coming from first, quickly. My first time I voted for president was for Barry Goldwater. It was after having finished serving over 4 years in the Second World War, went to combat, and I'm very familiar with statistics and casualties. Now, we have a situation here where we have a president, and the law of succession is what makes me nervous, because the statistics of presidents, 8 didn't finish their office, including 4 or 5 who were assassinated, a couple who died in office, and one who almost was killed, Reagan. That's 20%. In the most dangerous parts of any war, 20% is 10 times higher than normal. So here we have a way of eliminating a danger to our nation in the next election, because in the succession from the president, we have Biden, of course, he's got 3 years to go, but Pelosi and Reid are vulnerable, and I think we should not lose sight of those 2 elections and put all our guns on them and not scatter our shots.
I really don't understand what you're driving at, Bill, but you don't sound like you're playing with a full deck, likening assassinations of presidents with casualties in war. That's ridiculous. And by the way, you say, first you tell me what a student you are, and then you turn around and you say 4 or 5. 4 or 5. Was it 5 or was it 4? Let's see. Let's count them together, shall we? Shall we count the ways, Elizabeth Browning? 1860, Abe Lincoln was elected. 1865, he was assassinated. Then we go to John Garfield. 20 years later, John Garfield was assassinated. And then William McKinley was assassinated. That's how Teddy Roosevelt got to be president. And then, of course, JFK. So I count 4. And let's hope it stops at 4 and we never see it again. Thank you very much. Bob Grant here for Larry Kudlow. By the way, I know a lot of you folks tune into Larry for very good reasons. One of them being Larry certainly is a good person to talk to about the economy and any financial questions you have. I took that into consideration when I was asked if I would fill in for Larry, and I have invited Charles Gasparino to join us. He'll be on with us right after the 11 o'clock news. And Charles is somebody who really knows where it's at. Bob Grant here for Larry, straight ahead. Right, here we are, forging ahead, talking about Thanksgiving, and you hear everybody discuss families. Nobody sings to Grandmother's House, we go. Nobody sings that. But I remember something George Burns said. What was it? Happiness is having a large, caring, close-knit family in another city. I love that. All right, let's pick up the telephone and say hello to Bill, I believe, in Manhattan. Are you there, Bill? He's gone. All right, let's go to Stamford, Connecticut. Marshall, are you there?
Yes, Bob, I'm here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
But I have to warn you ahead of time. I have a dumb beard.
Oh, well, all right. Hey, if you're happy with it.
I wanted to congratulate you as a colossus of talk radio who spawned 1,000 epigones from whom we get lots of valuable information. And it's great to hear you back. I remember years ago, I think in the 80s, you interviewed the author of a book titled The Islamic Time Bomb. Do you recall that?
I recall that. It's in my private library, and there are people who, sad to say, at the time didn't respond. They thought, what's this guy trying to stir up? People can't, they don't pay enough attention. That's the problem, Marshall. That's why we're in deep trouble.
You're not kidding. You are not kidding. And you also had the author of a book on that was more prophetic than you may realize called the coming plague. And I and my family and many others suffer from a widespread disease that's not recognized, Lyme disease, with assorted co-infections. And that's spreading around, and I think George Bush suffers from it, and I think that may be some of the reasons why he made so many dumb mistakes.
Well, you know, I have mixed feelings about the former president. I had met him years ago. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize something until I was going through a folio of pictures. I said, wait a minute, I'm fooling around with this guy. Well, there were two guys, Jeb and George Bush. That was at the Republican convention in Houston in 1992, and they were up in the booth where I was doing my program right here on WABC, as a matter of fact, and I can tell you, they were real down-to-earth guys, wonderful guys. Jeb actually should have been president. Jeb would have been much better than George. But George's heart was in the right place, and he took a lot of abuse. And, you know, to this day, shame on Barack Obama. He constantly blames everything on George W. Bush. I mean, how long is he going to get away with blaming Bush for everything? That's why he's had trouble coming to a decision, in my view. He's had a lot of trouble coming to a decision on what to do in Afghanistan. And I think that's one of the reasons. Thank you very much, Marshall. Let's go to Bensonhurst, New York. And, by the way, I want to tell you, folks, Bensonhurst was proclaimed wall-to-wall Bob Grant country. Get a load of this. October 19th. In the year 1970. So that makes it the first community to proclaim itself wall-to-wall Bob Grant country. Yes, hello, Hank.
Hallelujah. And part of Bensonhurst has been surrendered, Bob. Just want to let you know. But the part that you proclamated and everything wall-to-wall is still there, but parts of it has been surrendered. It's no longer Bob Grant country. It's a foreign country. You get the drift, what I'm saying. Bob, you are the king of talk radio. That's the bottom line. No one imitates you. I wish they could. They can't. That's the bottom line there. There's no imitators with the great one. The Rio Diner we miss. The great callers we miss. Your sense of humor. Your ability to, hit on a sports issue, which was boggling to me. You were just number one. Bob, whatever happened to the great callers? I know they banned Steve from Manhattan from your show. They won't let him on. You let him on, but your screeners won't. And Big John from Staten Island, Frank of Queens, Vintage Frank. Whatever happened to those guys?
Who hired you? Hey, Hank, who hired you? Somebody paid to say all these things? Well, I have a suspicion they did. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with those guys. There's nothing wrong with you, but there would be something wrong with me if we continued along this road. Thank you very much, Hank. Let's go to Newburgh, New York, and say hello to Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Bob. How are you today? And hope you
just peachy keen. Let me say this for the benefit of anybody who is going to ask me how I am. I'll tell you in advance. I'm peachy keen. I learned that phrase from the great R. Peter Strauss of WMCA. Yes,
Very
go
good.
Ahead, please.
You sound great, Bob. Good to hear your voice. And I have a quick question I know that you could probably give a detailed answer to. If the Obama administration and the current Congress succeed with all this health care rigmarole and cap and trade and everything, and let's just be optimistic and say that the House and Senate changes hands and maybe we get a Republican president, how much of this do you think is reversible or repealable and, for the long-term interests of our country?
Well, the way the Constitution is written and the way the Constitution tells the legislative body what its powers are, they can reverse anything. For example, one of the worst bits of legislation ever passed in the history of this once great republic, you know what it was?
I'm going to guess the Immigration Act in 1965.
Well, that certainly is probably even more egregious. But this was pure stupidity that cost the nation greatly. All right, I'll tell you what it was. Prohibition. Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
And 13 years later, prohibition was repealed. So you can have any kind of legislation on the books, but if you have your party in charge and you have enough votes, you can repeal it. So if, heaven forbid, this health care plan, this socialist health care plan should be passed and should become law, future Congress could repeal it. Okay?
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. And the Volstead Act was so stupid. I mean, I wasn't around, but it created so many problems. Prohibition. Hard to believe that in our pot-smoking days here in America, I'm not advocating it. I've never had a joint even in. I had one in my hand. Never in my mouth. Had one in my hand. It was at a party. Get a load of this. This was in Manhattan. And it was at a party where there were quite a few politicians, council members, for example. And I was sitting there chatting with some people, and there was a city councilman right next to me. And he had his fiancée, girlfriend, or whoever, lovely young lady. And he said, "Would you pass this to so-and-so?" And he handed it to me, and I passed it on to her right away. And when I took a sniff, I said, "Oh, gee, that's a real joint. It's lit." I didn't want to get a contact high, so guess what? I left the party. And I'm not looking for someone to say, "Oh, you should have a halo." I'm not moralizing here. I'm just telling you, I don't want to get high. I don't want to get a contact high. If I wanted to really have the effects of a joint, I would have my own, not, breathing in somebody else's. Anyway, there you have it, folks. They say confession is good for the soul. Boy, oh boy, we're going right down the line. The telephone number, of course, 848-WABC. If you prefer the numbers game, 848-9222. And why don't we call in Steve Michaels, who's got his eye on the traffic? Oh, he's not there yet? Okay. All right. I'm going to say hello to, how about Jean in Westchester County?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Grant, and God bless you for all these wonderful years you've given us, our education and wisdom. I have a question that's been burning on my mind, and I haven't heard anybody else say this question. I hope you can give me your opinion on it. In your view, do you feel, because the present administration is so radical, do you feel that since they've been in office, that they have passed laws, either by executive order or by some other process, that actually violate the rights, our civil rights as American citizens under our, Constitution, Declaration?
All right, I understand what you're driving at. In a word, no. Okay?
Beautiful.
Sorry to disappoint you, but in a word, no, not yet. Thank you very much, Gene, in Westchester County. And right now we do have Steve Michaels from the WABC Traffic Center. All right, let's get back to our busy phones here. A lot of folks patiently waiting on the line. Dino from Paramus, New Jersey. Are you there, Dino?
Bob, how you doing? Nice to hear you again. But I can't agree with you more about health care. I mean, everything he's done so far, the take over the banks, the AIG, the insurance, the GM, you can all reverse that. But you cannot reverse the government takeover of health care. It's the worst thing in the world. I lived in Europe for 10 years. It destroys business. That was the difference between us and the rest of the world. We were capitalists. Now we're becoming socialists. China's passing us.
Well, listen, look, you just said something very important, that it would be irreversible. From a constitutional standpoint, from a real standpoint, it could be altered to the point of, in effect, being reversed. You can't just go in there and say, here's the legislation. It's got to be written a certain way. But I'll tell you this, and I sincerely believe it, otherwise I wouldn't say it, Dino. If the American people find this as onerous, as odious, as I believe they will demand the Obama socialist program is negated. They will demand that. And the American people don't know this. You do, Dino, and anybody who calls WABC radio also knows, but most Americans don't know they are in charge. And once they realize it's up to them, they'll take an active role in changing the tragedy of the 2008 election. Thank you very much, Dino. Let's go to Westchester County. Always been wall-to-wall Bob Grant country. And I want to congratulate them on their election victory a couple of weeks ago. Here's Jack. Hello, Jack.
Hi, Bob Grant. How likely do you think it might be that this fool we have in the White House might get caught in a major scandal and get impeached and convicted before the damage is really done, before it's too late?
I don't think he himself is scandal-prone. I don't think he's a candidate for scandal. But there are many people around him who are. I firmly believe that Rahm Emanuel and David Axelrod. I was going to think of the. I was going to think. You know what? I was going to think of the the yogurt. Anyway, David Axelrod, people like that. They're pulling all kinds of shenanigans. They really don't believe in the Constitution. They have contempt for what they call the great unwashed. So it's going to be very interesting. But as far as Barack himself, I don't think so. And besides, impeaching is not an easy thing to do. We had a president. He was the 42nd president of the United States, and he was impeached, but the Senate did not convict him. People don't realize that. They say, Clinton avoided impeachment. He didn't. The House impeaches, the Senate convicts. Thank you very much, Jack. Bob in Queens, you're on WABC. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, Bob. It's actually Bill in New Jersey. But what I wanted to say was, what you're really kind of talking about is the de-Americanization of America. And as you talk to people, the one gentleman you had from Bay Ridge that said, in some ways it's no longer the Bay Ridge that you knew. And it's not just true of New York. It's true in a lot of areas, especially along the East Coast, as we have elements that are moving into our area that are not necessarily pro-American. It's that internationalist philosophy, and as we de-Americanize our country, we see things like healthcare, this crazy healthcare reform, the banking scandal, AIG, all the things that have been mentioned already, and it really has to do with controlling business and trying to remove capitalism.
All right, thank you very much. By the way, it was Bensonhurst, not Bay Ridge, but there's very small difference. Adrian in New York City, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Bob, for taking my call. I hope you can help me. I have such a fear that when President Obama apparently grants amnesty to these illegals, that he'll be in office forever. Is there anything that we can do? Well,
first of all, the Constitution says that the presidential term is limited to 2 terms. So how he's going to be there forever when the Constitution says otherwise, that's a fascinating question there. As far as him granting amnesty to illegals, of course, in his heart of hearts, he's granting them amnesty all the time. And he's very clever. He says, we don't say that the health plan will apply to illegals. And yet, in the health plan, people are not supposed to be asked if they're American citizens or not. So if you're a government employee and you're supposed to monitor what's going on, you cannot ask someone, even if he doesn't speak a word of English, I mean, let's say he's from Upper Slovenia, and you say, "Are you an American citizen?" And his answer is, "A dodoniš du bratsko, and then you're in trouble because you asked him a question he wasn't supposed to be asked. It's sick out there. And straight ahead into round two of Larry Kudlow's three-round extravaganza, part of your WABC New York weekend. I did tell you we were going to have Charles Gasparino, who is acknowledged to be one of the most incisive Wall Street mavens. And indeed, we do look forward to speaking with him. But we're having a bit of difficulty in reaching him. So, Charles, if you're there, call us. Oh, dear me. Our telephone number, by the way, is 1-800-848-WABC. If you prefer the numbers game, it's 1-800-848-9222. 9222. Let's go to Belmar, Long Island. See if we have Steve on the line. Are you there, sir?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, this is not Belmar. This is Steve in Yonkers. Hi, Bob.
Hi. Yes, Steve. Go ahead, please.
What I wanted to ask you was, what is your take about the lack of security? That doesn't sound like the Secret Service. They're very professional people.
Well, I know the Secret Service has a splendid reputation, and I remember interviewing a retired Secret Service person about 15 years or so ago, and he told me that there are many times they came close to having something tragic happen, but they headed it off because they were on their toes. Now, as far as this particular couple is concerned, fortunately, they did not have evil intent. Their intent was, I think, very childish, very immature, and they wanted to be able to brag and say, hey, you know, we crashed it. And furthermore, again, it's the people who are at fault. Why do I say that? I'll tell you why. Because people are suckers for these so-called reality shows. Now, I wonder how many people who listen to WABC radio ever watched John and Kate and 8. I know you haven't. I'd fall off this chair right here in this studio if you told me that you had watched. But the people who listen to WABC radio are not the type to get sucked into something so immature, so banal, so vacuous as John and Kate plus 8. Do you know what that's all about, that program?
No, I never watched it.
Ah, God bless you. Of course you didn't watch it. Neither have I. But I know enough about it to know that it's rank. It's absolutely devoid of anything worthwhile. Now, that's a reality show. I don't think those things on CBS on Sunday night really should be called reality shows. But I'll get into more of that later. Anyway, Steve in Yonkers, I thank you very much for your call. And Charles Gasparino is on our telephone line right now. So let's say hello to Charles. Charles, good morning here on the Larry Kudlow program over at WABC. Bob Grant sitting in.
Really? You're sitting in for Larry. That's the first, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. You know, there are a lot of things to talk about, unfortunately. Most of them are very depressing, very discouraging.
Right.
But as we pause here, toward the end of November of 2009, having, I was going to say survived the first year of the Obama presidency, but survive would be the incorrect verb. Anyway, where do things stand? Where do you see us going, Charles?
Well, it's a huge question mark. Now, I wrote a book about the financial crisis called The Sellout. In that book, I basically talked about how over the last 3 decades, the banking system built up so much risk and debt that it really hurt the economy, and it was the main reason for the economic slowdown. You can't blame the Obama administration for that. You can blame the Clinton administration, you can blame the Bush administration for housing policy and for allowing banks to basically take this risk without any consequence, which is the main point of the book. But you can't blame Obama for that. What you can blame Obama for is his prescriptions. And his prescriptions have been, just in terms of results, whether you agree with the notions that were carried out is another story. But if you just look at results, his prescriptions have fallen way far short and, maybe put us in an even worse hole. I think the stimulus package, and he was warned about this, not just by conservatives, but a lot of mainstream economists said, if you spend $800 billion, generally government spending of that magnitude, it doesn't really result in the economic sort of bang for the buck that you need. And I'll tell you, given the fact that we had a financial crisis and that the economy was spiraling downward, that we needed something to stop it from going down, a stimulus was needed. The question was, how do you stimulate to get businesses back on track, to get the unemployment spiral downward to stop? And the government spending just doesn't work. There's a lousy record for it to work. On top of that, and here's where it's really bad. So he spends all this money. You don't get any bang for the buck from it. On top of that, he promises more taxes. And, any small businessman knows if you're going to spend $1 trillion on health care, there's going to be more taxes, and that tax rate's going to fall on the small business. And so when you put both of those things together, why unemployment's going up to 10%, and probably higher. And here's where it gets really tricky. If it goes up to 11%, and this is kind of a point I make in my book, is that's when you could have another banking crisis, because you're going to have banks, at least a couple of banks, probably in need of more capital. And when I say in need of more capital, I mean like something like Citigroup needing more capital is not a good thing, because Citigroup is thought to be right now at the very least stabilized. And the notion that Citigroup is not stabilized is something the markets are not going to take to very well.
Now, Tim Geithner is a howling failure. There are members of both parties suggesting he depart, he resign. But it isn't up to him to resign. It's up to the president to fire him. Why hasn't the president fired him?
Right, but that gets to the point. We could all sit around and talk about how dopey Tim Geithner is, but I think a bigger problem is the fact that he is not. He's the convenient excuse. Fire him for the thing not working. This was the president's policies. This is not. You could blame Tim Geithner for carrying him out, I think, and for not protesting more, for not resigning when he should, because it's so absurd. But you can't blame him for the direction the country's going in terms of policy. This is purely this is the president and his policy team. And one of the things I've written about is that the economic guys really don't have a seat at the table. What's fascinating, the difference between Clinton and Obama is pretty interesting in this sense. Robert Rubin, when he was Treasury Secretary, had a seat at the table. I don't think Geithner really does. He's at the table. I just don't think he helps arrange policy like Rubin did. This is what I understand. Larry Summers, the same thing, and Paul Volcker, the same thing, who is a brilliant economist and who is I guess you could say maybe one of the greatest economists of our time.
You know why he was such a great economist? Because he had the couillons to pursue a policy which led to the breaking of the back of the super hyper Jimmy Carter inflation.
Absolutely.
Why don't you stay right there, unless you have to run someplace?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, you have you have nothing at the beach, nothing going on.
No, I'm
okay.
not going to the beach today. May go for
all right. So stay right there, Charles. I want to continue this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen very closely to this conversation, not because I'm a participant, but because it might be beneficial to your economic health. And we are talking to Charles Gasparino. He did write that book he alluded to, and we did talk to him on that occasion. So you know full well that you're not going to get anything sugar-coated. The days of sugar-coating are what has put us in this horrible position. Straight ahead. All right, we're talking to Charles Gasparino, author of a book that has made the bestseller list, and for good reason. The title of the book, The Sellout, it's available everywhere and very timely. And I want to congratulate you, Charles, on the success of your book, The Sellout.
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Now, it's awfully difficult to codify all these problems, and as you outline them, it looks as though it's unsolvable. What if? Okay, let's have a what if here. What if you should be summoned to the White House and you were appointed Secretary of the Treasury? What would you do?
Well, I wouldn't do any spending. I wouldn't be spending all the stuff that they're spending on. I mean, I think what I don't get is that, all this stuff is kind of known and accepted. I mean, I talked to liberals who voted for Obama, and there are plenty of them on Wall Street who look at what's going on, the massive spending, the fact that the dollar is under assault, that people are rushing into gold. And they're saying, do you realize what's going on now? Here's the thing, Bob. I think having a healthcare debate is a worthy debate. I don't think you socialize medicine, in the middle of an economic tsunami that we had when unemployment's rising. I mean, that's a debate you have, quite frankly, when unemployment's at 6%, when the country is flush, when people are working, and when you can afford it. And then you have that debate, and then you could debate it rationally. This is insane, what's going on here. This is another $trillion on top of the $1 trillion that we spend on the stimulus that hasn't worked, on top of other trillions that we need to spend on the banking system, which I believe was needed. But nevertheless, we're having this debate at a time when the economy is still shaky. Unless they really believe this, and this gets to sort of blind ideology or just stupidity. If they really do believe the stimulus package is working and that it's about to kick in at any time, I mean, if they believe that, and it might be true, I don't know, but the evidence shows it's not. Unless you believe that, you're throwing on a mandate on businesses through higher taxes at the worst possible time.
But what makes this so crazy is the fact that two different crushing issues are facing America at the same time, and because of Obama's obsession with socializing medicine in this country, everything else has to take a back seat.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. People are out of work in massive numbers. If I told you 9% unemployment, you'd say, "Wow, that's great," even though we both know that's not so great. But we're going to 10.5, and I mean, this is crushing the middle class. What's going on here? I mean, I think people forget the equation that really the whole notion of taxing the rich and everything. I mean, who do you think employs working class people? My dad was an iron worker, and then when he was out of work in the 70s, he bartended, he drove a cab and things like that. And by the way, he never missed a mortgage payment. We didn't live in a McMansion, but he still never missed a mortgage payment. You need rich people to spend money. And if they don't spend money, working class people go out of work. And I think I don't know how you explain that any more simply, and let politicians know that you just cannot just squeeze. Because first off, here's the thing: if you look at Obama supporters among quote unquote the rich, generally they're the mega rich. It's the guys on Wall Street, the guy that you read about so much at Goldman Sachs. I write about this in my book, Lloyd Blankfein, who's about to hand $20 billion of bonus money to all his investment bankers that were bailed out by the federal government last year, by the way. these are the type of guys that generally support Obama because they don't care if you raise the marginal rate up a few points. You know, they make so much money anyway; it doesn't matter. The real sort of quote unquote rich that Obama has the target on is not that type of rich. It's the couple in New York City with 2 kids who make $251,000 a year, and maybe they have a house. They have someone to clean their house cleaner, and maybe they go on vacation. They go out to eat a couple nights a week. That's the type of rich, 251 plus up, that's going to feel the brunt of this, and they spend money that trickles to working class people. The other type of quote unquote rich he targets are the small business owners. These are the people, and I'm not talking about a guy that runs like the guy that cuts your lawn. I mean, and employs 5 people to do that. I'm talking about small businessmen that own. I mean, I have a source of mine up in Boston. His name is Burke Cunningham. He runs a cheese distributorship. I mean, he employs plenty of people. I mean, he's not as big as GE, but he's considered what's known as a small business. And he's not a public company, but he employs a lot of people. Those are the types of quote-unquote rich that are going to get killed here, and those are the people that employ most of the people in this country. I think people forget that. They think Goldman Sachs employs most of the people in the country. They don't. It's the small businessman who is going to get crushed here. And I just don't think they understand that dynamic in Washington. I don't think the Democratic Party in general understands that dynamic. At least now. It did for a time under Clinton to an extent. I mean, it got that. It got what was going, how job creation was started. This brand of Democratic Party politics does not, and it's scary because listen, you can talk about hope and change all you want. When you got 10.5% unemployment, that conversation becomes old.
Charles, I want to thank you very much for joining us. It's comforting to me on a personal level to hear someone of your expertise confirm my theories. Not that it does the country any good, but if people pick up your book, The Sellout, maybe they'll get a better idea. We just can't lose by default. That's my message to this audience. We mustn't lose by default. If we lose, if we go down, we got to go down fighting. Thank you very much, Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is, Barack Obama is a socialist. Barack Obama got his eye teeth cut his eye teeth on reading Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky, a Marxist, a communist, and a very shrewd political operative who preached how to take power in a country such as the United States. Now, some of you may say, that sounds pretty strong. Well, I don't think it's strong enough. This man in the White House, the man we've made our 44th president, who ran on the Democrat ticket, has nothing in common with the Democratic Party as it existed years ago. How could he and Harry Truman get in the same room, for heaven's sake? Or for that matter, even FDR. Because Barack Obama is not one that wants to reform an existing government machinery. He wants to replace it. Now, here's what angers me even more than Barack Obama himself. Barack Obama is, yes, a narcissist. It's all about him. That's a human trait that people who possess charisma and gain power do possess. What troubles me more than the president are the Harry Reids, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Democrats in general. I would like to think, but it's naive, very naive of me to think, that there are people in the Democratic Party, and I'm talking about top echelon people, who would say, I may be the guy that comes in with a sweater that says Democrat. That may be my team, but my team is on the wrong side of the field. I have got to stand up and oppose this president, even though he's a president of my party. Where are they? For heaven's sake, am I so naive that I think there may be some of them? I had hopes that Joe Lieberman might be that one, but I should know better. A politician is a politician. It's tragic, folks. Those of us who are alive now may be witnessing the end of the United States as we have known it. You want to agree, you want to disagree, whatever the case may be, just remember the telephone number 1-800-848-WABC. Straight ahead, everybody. And I'm Bob Grant. I'm here for Larry Kudlow. Glad you could join us. You stay right where you are. And if you want to join in, all you do is pick up the telephone and call 800-848-WABC. Let's go to Fort Lee, New Jersey, and say hello to Hugh. Hello, Hugh. Yes, sir.
Bob?
Yes.
Oh, good. It's so nice to talk to you. I've been listening to you for years, and when you talk about history, that's my favorite thing. You and Frank of Queens, I used to love listening to all the time.
Yes, Hugh. What's on your mind, sir?
Okay, I'd like to talk about the Tiger Woods accident. I think it's turning into more like a Columbo movie. 2:30 in the morning. It seems like he was trying to get away from somebody that might have been chasing him with a golf club. So I'm just curious if his back window was broken before the accident or after the accident or during the accident. Seems to me that it's either the butler or his wife, because it just seems very, like a whole story, seems very suspicious. It just seems that he was trying to get away from somebody in a big hurry.
Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to come to that conclusion. And I'll tell you, my immediate reaction to all of this is the bigger the name, the bigger the story, regardless of the details. But it is, to use the word you employed 4 times, suspicious. It is suspicious, meaning that, yes, someone was chasing him. Someone was armed with a weapon known as a golf club. Someone did break the rear window. The first story was that Mrs. Woods had broken the rear window to help him get out of the car. But the fact of the matter is that's an insult to our non-existent intelligence, since the car was not banged up to the extent that he couldn't open a door. He could open a door. But the question is, where do we go from here? Now, you know as well as I do, the Sheriff's Department down there in Orlando, Florida, they're keeping quiet. Why? Because somebody said, listen, we got to keep quiet. We got to keep this stuff, got to keep these newspaper people in the dark. Well, I say baloney with that. The public is entitled to know what happened. And if there's any kind of court case, and there is, did you see this one little suggestion that they have not decided whether to prosecute? Prosecute who? Prosecute Tiger because he was trying to save his life? I mean, what? So it's a diversion from the truly depressing news of Barack Obama and company. And little by little, we'll get the story because, you know, the media loves scandal. And I think the public does, too. Thank you very much, Hugh. Hugh calling from one of the very first New Jersey communities to proclaim itself wall-to-wall Bob Grant country, April 13th, 1971. How do you like that? Okay, here's Rich, I believe, from Long Island. Rich, are you there?
Yes. How you doing, Bob? Great show as always. How about we nominate you as a lobbyist for the American people?
Well, I'd like to think that anybody that has
we need you. Anyway, the question I had was, if Barack Obama signs this Copenhagen Treaty, isn't that going to abolish the Constitution and give the world government a new Constitution?
Now there you go. You see, this is in answer to that woman that talked about his violating the Constitution. He hasn't violated it yet, but he does believe in subverting the United States Constitution to a world governmental body. He does believe in that. He also believes in subverting the dollar to a world legal tender. Are you aware of that?
Right. Okay. Now, the other thing is, if we were back in 1953 with the McCarthy hearings, where would these people be now?
Where would these hearings be held? You mean today?
In the White House, where would they be now if we had the McCarthy hearings?
I don't understand what your implication
the McCarthy hearings had to do with communism in America. Okay, and the McCarthy hearings brought out a bunch of these subversives that were, in essence, infiltrated in our country. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. And the Venona papers themselves give unquestionable evidence to the fact that, I'm sorry, some of you folks are going to hate me for saying this. Am I violating a law? Am I committing a mortal sin? That may be in your book, but to say that the Joe McCarthy hearings did a great deal to save this country in the post World War II period. All right, I said it. That's it. Get that man off the air. The man is a fascist. Well, if you can be a communist, can you also be a fascist? Are the two that different? The two have certainly one thing in common, and that is they don't believe in liberty. And that really is the crux of the entire debate, the entire issue. And that's why my colleague, the absolute great Mark Levin, wrote such an outstanding book talking about the battle between liberty and tyranny. You either have liberty or you don't. And what we have here, holding the reins of government, is a president and his stooges who do not believe in liberty. Oh, they'll tell you they do. Prove it. Prove it, Mr. President. Prove it. But no, he wants to shove a bloated health care bill down our throats. And they have the option, the public option, which is a Trojan horse, because that's making way for the government to be giving us what is called a single-payer system. Now, single-payer system sounds innocuous, it sounds harmless, but that's what socialism is. Now, if we had a health system in this country, and for all its faults, I know there are faults, I know that. It's easy to complain. You sit in a doctor's office and you say, I don't like this. Well, okay, you don't like it. But do you want to go from what we have to something that will change everything for the worse? Some people think, as a matter of fact, during the campaign, we kept seeing the words change. Change we can believe in. I'm talking about the Obama presidential campaign. Change we can believe in. Change to what? Now we know what. Oh, there are some of us who warned that this guy was a socialist because we had read enough about him, we knew enough about him, and there's some people maybe welcomed that far left tilt. But I don't think most people who believe in, I don't think anybody, what do I mean most people? I don't think anybody who believes in liberty is going to hold still for socialism. What do you think? You could let me know right here on the Larry Kudlow program. Bob Grant sitting in. Our telephone number 1-800-848-9222. Straight ahead. I do believe we have Cindy from New Jersey. Are you there, Cindy?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my call. I'm very concerned about health care reform, have been since the talks began about it. I have a young adult that has special needs, and I don't know if you want to call me a power user of health care, whatever. I've had a lot of exposure to the health care industry, and as you've said, it does have its faults, but overall, I think it's the best in the world and has done, our family has done very well by it. As an individual, I have written letters, sent emails, made phone calls to President Obama, to my senators, to congressmen, and I get letters back from them, but you can tell by what they're writing that they're not even listening to my concerns. They don't care about my concerns. There was actually only one that I got back, and it was after the governor race in New Jersey, that they actually addressed my concerns. Still not in agreement, but they actually took the time to address my concerns. Prior to that, it was just their
form letter,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I've also done online petitions. I've posted comments on Facebook to my friends. I've joined several.
All right, I'm sure you have done everything and more as you're telling us. But what is it specifically you asked?
Well, I don't feel like I'm being effective, and I don't. And polls show that most Americans are against this. Like, what can we do? I just feel like I'm not getting any results, and I don't think America is. I want it to stop.
Now, you say results. You still haven't zeroed in on exactly what it is you were asking. You say you've written letters, made calls. Over health care, but what were you saying over health care? What?
The reform, the public option, the forcing.
All right, stop right there. Public option, and you don't want the public option, right?
No, I don't want the layer. What I really don't want is the layer of government in between me and my doctor.
Well, then
doctor.
Guess what? You are with the majority of Americans, including the guy you're talking to. But the Obama administration doesn't care about you, doesn't care about me, doesn't care about anybody except they want to see their ideology confirmed by an act of Congress with a legislation signed by the president. That's what it boils down to, and I don't know how we're going to stop it. There are just too doggone many Democrats in the Senate.
I know, it's very frustrating. I just feel powerless at times. I really
Well,
do.
you are powerless. That isn't the way the Constitution wants you to be, but you are powerless.
I mean, what about the 9/12 project? I mean, it's a little, it's a little slightly different topic. But
well, that hasn't taken off yet. But
there were over 1 million people in Washington. I mean, I couldn't go, but I mean, there were over 1 million people there. And if you're not going to listen to 1 million people, I mean, I feel like, well, what's my one voice going to do? Nothing.
All right, but your voice is part of a chorus, and if the chorus is big enough and constant enough, maybe we'll make a point. Thank you very much. Stay tuned to WABC. That's the very least you can do, but it's not unimportant because it not only keeps you in touch with those of us who speak this side of the microphone, but you know you are not alone, and that is a very important factor. You've got to remember, folks, you've got to remember when this man was elected, there were those of us who warned that Saul Alinsky's philosophy would prevail. would dictate what he does. And now some of you understand why we sounded the alarm. Monroe Township checking in right now. Hello, Dottie.
Well, here I am, Bob. It's an honor to speak with you. You're a great American. I just wanted to ask you something. You said that Bensonhurst was the first wall-to-wall Bob Grant?
It was. It was.
What about Woodbridge, the Rio Diner, and all that?
Well, you know, you can have only one that's first, right?
Right. So,
the Bensonhurst Declaration came first. The Woodbridge Proclamation came on, let me check it out. Okay, Mike Farakis read the proclamation, and he read it at 11:01 a.m. Tuesday, May 17th of 1984.
I stand corrected. Anyway, it was great speaking with you.
Thank you very much. You know, I could get thrown in jail for this, folks, except they don't list it as a criminal offense. All right, let's say hello to Walter from Long Island. Go ahead, Walter. He's gone. What do you know? Rob in Glen Cove, Long Island. Hello, Rob. Are you there?
I think it's Rich, Bob.
All right, Rich in White Plains, New York. Go ahead, Rich.
How you doing, Bob? You know, I told the call screener I was going to comment on the couple that crashed the state dinner. But now I'm thinking I want to say something about health care since I just listened to one of your callers. Which would you prefer?
Whatever. It's your call. You tell me what you want.
Well, I think that there's a part of the discussion over health care that is being totally omitted and avoided. I've been saying this for years about health insurance that I've only heard repeated a couple of times, once by Britt Hume, another time by Ann Coulter. Ann said it nicely when she said that the way health insurance is structured now, it's like getting your car insurance to pay for a tune-up or getting your homeowner's insurance to pay to remodel your kitchen. You know, people take out health insurance, they go to the doctor for everything and don't ask how much it costs. And when you have that kind of attitude, of course, premiums are going to go up. And it's been like that for years. And nowhere in the discussion has anybody went up to the doctors or the medical community and said, why does it cost so much? They're left completely unaccountable. It's almost like they get a pass.
Well, doctors will tell you one of the reasons they're in a jam is because there was no tort reform, and they have to pay huge amounts to maintain their liability insurance. And don't think that doesn't count for a great deal. Appreciate the call, I think.
The news wheel doesn't stop on the weekends. It goes on and on with Larry Kudlow on the weekend. 77 WABC.
All right, everybody, now hear this. The fantail is open for the disposal of garbage. Does that sound familiar to any of you ex-Navy men? Anyway, I do want you to hear this. I think it's important, as we have just observed the 8th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. It's important to take a look at our foreign policy and to judge whether or not we're on a path to becoming safer. I think it's important to bring this out because we focused, understandably, on the economic crisis, the health care travesty. But nevertheless, foreign policy can never be forgotten. It must be attended to. First of all, for the last 9 months now, we've had a different kind of president than we've had in the past. Barack Obama is the first post-American president. Now, by this, I'm not saying he's anti-American. Even if I thought it, I wouldn't say it. But what is meant by post-American is suggested by a response that the president gave to a reporter's question during a recent trip to Europe. The media didn't focus on this the way I wish they had. But this particular reporter asked about President Obama's unwillingness to discuss American exceptionalism. The notion that the United States has a unique mission, that it is indeed, as the great Ronald Reagan said, a shining city on a hill. Actually, the great Ronald Reagan was echoing our Pilgrim Fathers when he referred to a shining city on a hill. Mr. Obama responded to that reporter that he believes in American exceptionalism in the same way that the British believe in British exceptionalism. That was his response. In the same way, he said. That's interesting, isn't it? Then he went on to say, and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Well, given that there are 192 member countries in the United Nations, I'm sure he could have gone on naming another 189 that believe in their own exceptionalism. But in any case, the idea that all countries believe themselves to be exceptional in the same way leads to the unmistakable conclusion that none are truly exceptional. In other words, the president's response reflects his belief that America is not so different from other countries. The president's supporters in the mainstream media share this view. Newsweek editor Evan Thomas, for example, delivered this revealing comment when previewing the president's speech on the anniversary of D-Day last June. See if any of you remember. Reagan was all about America. Obama is, quote, we are above that now. We are not just parochial. We're not just chauvinistic. We're not just provincial. We stand for something. I mean, in a way, Obama's standing above the country, above the world. He's sort of God. There has been nowhere in his domestic appearances, which have been all too multitudinous, or in his foreign utterances, there is nowhere where he says, I am an American. I am proud to be an American. If I missed it, please correct me. I will make a public apology that I missed it. But I don't think I missed it because I don't think he ever said it. Several years ago, the Hearst newspapers launched, and at that time the Hearst empire was considerable. You didn't have to see Citizen Kane to know that. But the Hearst newspapers launched, and this was due to the World War II patriotism, they launched I Am an American Day. I Am an American Day. And they would have contests, people would write in. But the whole idea was not that we were perfect, not that we were better than anybody, not that we were more worthy of God's beneficence, but that we were unique because we were American. I am an American Day. If Hearst or any other group were to launch such a campaign, I wonder if it would get any traction. The New York Times, of course, would belittle it if they even mentioned it. See, the New York Times does mention certain things only to belittle those things. Look, we can have a dichotomy. We can have dispute. We can have differences of opinion. We can even get hyperbolic. But you know what? What I am talking about now, goes beyond the difference of opinion. We can't say we are starting from the same starting point. That A, we are all Americans. That B, as Americans, we have the freedom to express ourselves without someone knocking on the door at midnight. And that C, yes, maybe our neighbor next door, across the street, down the road a bit, maybe does disagree. And maybe he is registered in a different political party. But so what? We are Americans. I am an American. But it isn't that way anymore, is it? You have the MSNBC crowd. You have the amateur knights like Keith Olbermann who think that if they act unpatriotic, that makes them some kind of sophisticated intellectual. I remember many years ago when I was with the great CBS, where I cut my eye teeth in the news division. And I would have a friendly discussion with some colleagues. And I would give my opinion, and they would say, "Oh, Bob, you're too intelligent to believe that." In other words, you couldn't be a conservative and intelligent at the same time. If you were intelligent, you were therefore a liberal. And if you were conservative, then that meant you were too smart. That snobbishness that I have encountered was at a day when there weren't many of us on the political right as there are today. But I don't like to see the divisions, I'm a 100% conservative, you're a 100% liberal. I'm not 100% anything, except I would like to believe I'm a 100% American. All right, the sermon is over. You may come back into the room straight ahead. And we're forging ahead here on the Larry Kudlow program. Bob Grant sitting in for Larry. Don't forget my program, which airs every Sunday from 12 noon until 2 p.m. And we never run out of ammunition. What do I mean by ammunition? Things to talk about, things to argue about, things to, maybe improve. Lambertville, New Jersey, checking in right now in the person of Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Bob. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Long-time listener, about 25 years. I wanted to touch base with you as a Jersey resident, a fellow Jersey resident. The frustration that you have when you go out and you vote for your local representative. And I voted for a Republican, and, of course, he's one of the Republicans that turned coat in the cap and tax. And it's frustrating to me because, at the end of your show, you always say your vote counts, use it. I raised three children.
I say your influence counts.
You're right. I'm sorry. Your influence counts. Bottom line is, I raised 3 adult children to keep that same philosophy, and they vote. And it's just frustrating when you go out and you vote for what you believe to be your local representative, and he turns coat on exactly what you believe your party's policy should be. and I just wanted to hear what you had to say about the cap and
Well, I don't hold with that 100% stuff. I agree with the great Ronald Reagan, who said you can't expect someone to agree with you 100%. He said, but if they agree with you 80%, that's your guy. Now, I know Representative Lance. If I were a colleague of his, I would have voted the other way. I would not have voted to approve cap and trade, because cap and trade is another nail in our coffin. But I wouldn't denounce him in toto for having made that vote. I would, however, want to find out how he justified that vote, what his rationale was for voting the way he did. But I can understand what you're saying. Even some of my colleagues on the right don't think I'm conservative enough. A couple of issues that maybe don't have me right in the mainstream of what they consider to be conservatism. So things can be relative. When I say my colleagues, I'm not thinking about any individuals who broadcast on this radio station or any other station. Not every conservative has got a talk show, although it might seem that way. All right? Okay, thank you. No, I said to someone not too long ago, I said there was a time when I felt very special, very unique, because I was a radio talk show host. There were at that time, according to a publication, a trade publication, there were at that time 11 certified radio talk show hosts who dealt with political issues, controversial issues in the whole country. The whole country. Now, if I watch, let's say, the guy who invented it all, Bill O'Reilly, if I watch Bill, if you want me to plug any book or anything that you're selling, just let me know. Give me a call. Anyway, he'll have somebody on, and the words below that person's name, let's say it'll be Gil Grinnell, radio talk show host. Leland Parge, Abigail, radio talk show host. Abigail Parge, radio talk show host. Suddenly, everybody's a radio talk show host. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think that there are more radio talk show hosts than anything else. I just thought I'd share that with you because it's absolutely meaningless. Okay. Here's Tricia from Trumbull, Connecticut. And I don't mind telling you, Tricia, I'm not making this up. Trumbull was the first Connecticut community to name itself Bob Grant Country, wall-to-wall Bob Grant Country.
Well, it's nice to talk to you, Bob, again. It's been a year or so, I think. Anyway, you've had just a recent caller and one about a half hour ago expressed frustration at their representatives who are not listening to them. I certainly agree with all of that and have gone to tea parties in D.C. and locally. And beyond that, I have a couple of suggestions. When your representative comes home for the holidays, I haven't checked to see if they have, 2 or 3 weeks vacation or whatever they have, organize some people and get in their face. Go to their office and take your signs. And beyond that, let them know that they're going to be fired when the next election comes up. And there's a great group. It's not a party. It's called the Independence Caucus, and people can find it at ourcaucus.com. That's O-U-R, caucus, C-A-U-C-U-S.com. And they have proven strategies, and they're organizing people as volunteers to help vet candidates who believe in the Constitution, who believe in limited government, who will stand up for the people and stop the nonsense of all of this big money special interests that are controlling our quote-unquote representatives who have been elected and now are only concerned about retaining their power over us. It's a great group, and they are in the process of vetting candidates, and everyone can get involved in this. And soon they will be delivering to Barbara Boxer, for instance, in California, what they call the big stick. And they've done the research to connect how all of these people, these incumbents, are getting all this special interest money, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. And they're going to be delivering, well, it's hard to explain on the radio.
You don't have to explain any further. If people go to ourcaucus.com, that's OURCAUCUS.com, they will get the information. I think you explained it much better than you think you did.
Well, thank you, Bob, and I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and that you have a wonderful Christmas. And I'm not going to hesitate to use the word, this happy holidays, political correctness.
Oh, no. Merry Christmas is back. I've been reading that it's okay. And the reason it's okay is the retailers have been having such a bad time of it that they'll even resort to allowing Merry Christmas in order to get more customers back in the store. You think I'm making this up? I wish I were. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call, Tricia. My telephone number, of course, is 848-WABC. It's an 800 number, 800-848-9222. We're going to continue being with you until 1 p.m. as part of your WABC New York weekend. Straight ahead. And we are forging ahead here. We're going to pick up those telephones and say hello right now. Right now to, how about Gregory from Manhattan? Gregory, are you there?
Bob Grant.
Yes.
Hello. Bob Grant.
Yes. Would you turn your radio off? We are on a delay, and it'll be impossible to continue the conversation. Okay, did you turn it off? I guess he turned his phone off, too. Well, all right, that's too bad. Let's go to Brooklyn and say hello to Kevin. Kevin, you're on WABC.
Hey, Bob, how are you? It's a pleasure and an honor to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving.
Yeah, what's on your mind, sir?
My comment today is I find it very strange that after what took place at the state dinner, Representative Towns now wants to have this big congressional hearing on what went wrong, when meanwhile the American public has been calling his office complaining about the fact that he wants to take AIG's contract with the government on the money they borrowed and extend it 20 years, lower the interest rates. There was also an incident with Andrew Stern, the president of SEIU, visiting the White House 22 times. 6 times he had a one-on-one with the president. And the people are calling for an investigation on that. That's alarming to the public. What does a president of a union have to see the president of the United States 22 times, 6 times alone in the Oval Office? And he doesn't find that alarming.
I'm surprised. First of all, I want to congratulate you for your observations, but I'm surprised that people didn't react before when they saw a clip, a news clip, of Barack Obama addressing the SEIU union and telling them he was virtually a union member also, that he was one of their union brothers. Now, did the American people vote for him to represent this questionable union, or did they vote for him to be the president of all the people? I want to know.
Exactly, Bob. And the other thing was how in that speech that he gave to SEIU, he told the members and Andy Stern that they would help make his agenda. Wake up, America. Make his agenda. A union president is going to help shape the president and the United States agenda? That's absurd.
Not only is it absurd, it is dangerous. It is what I have, and others, I'm not the only one, thank the good Lord, but it is dangerous. It's what I've been warning, what I was warning. Why, when some people said to me last year, Bob, you weren't a big John McCain fan, and I said, no, I am not a big John McCain fan. Well, then why are you voting for him? I said, look at the alternative. People don't think that way. They are very narrow, and we all have to pay the price for that. Anyway, Kevin, a very good call. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm going now via telephone, of course, to Belmar, Long Island, and say hello to Steve. Steve, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am. How are you, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Number one, sir, I just want to let you know you're a great American. Number two, sir, I've been listening to you for 1,000,000 years. I'm a former Marine, and I love listening to you and Jimmy. And the reason why I called you, sir, is I still got a gripe. Nobody seems to care about this. When 9/11 happened, sir, the president decided to not come in, as you know. And as you know, 2 or 3 days later, the president was at Wall Street. And I can't tell you how much that aggravates the heck out of me. And I want to get your feel on that.
Well, it shows you two things, in my view. Number one, the utter contempt Barack Obama has for people like you and people like me. Utter contempt. And number two, he was making a political statement. It's all about politics with Barack Obama. I suggest that maybe he's not the only one, but some are more so than others.
But, sir, it was such a slap in the face because who voted for him? New York and New Jersey. And this fellow couldn't come in for 9/11.
All right, thank you very much. Now, when he says for 9/11, what he means is the observance, the 8th anniversary observance of what happened 9/11/2001. I tried to rent a movie. I don't do this often. I don't go to motion picture theaters even when I would get invitations because I really can't stand sitting in a theater and listening to the stupid comments that other members of the audience make. So, although I enjoy a good film, I don't go to motion picture theaters. I do like to rent a cassette or whatever you want to call it, a DVD. I wanted to rent a motion picture called 2012. I happen to be a hobbyist when it comes to reading about a gentleman from the 16th century, Nostradamus. And Nostradamus made a prediction that has been interpreted as saying that in the year 2012, specifically on the date of December 21st, 2012, conflagration would occur that could very well destroy civilization as we used to know it. And I wanted to see this film. I can't get a hold of this tape. So I'm going to ask, is there any member of this impressive, dignified, prestigious audience who saw 2012? And even if you didn't see it, do you have any thoughts about it? I think that would be interesting to hear. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked. I'm going to say hello to Bill from Bergen County. I say hello to you, Bill.
Yeah, hi, Bob, and I wanted to share the thoughts of other people about being glad to hear you on the radio, because I've been listening to you for many years also, and before that, my dad did. What I wanted to say, you mentioned about tort reform, and, I absolutely agree that we need some kind of tort reform law. And some of the states have tort reform, and it would help us also because of the, people talk about high costs of medical care. It's not only because of the high cost of the malpractice insurance, But doctors are doing a lot of testing that they wouldn't normally do, except that they want to protect themselves against a lawsuit.
That's absolutely true. I know I myself have been subjected to some tests, and I really didn't want to take them, but I knew why they were giving them to me. I knew that.
They've got to protect themselves, because if they don't do it, and God forbid there is something, then they're going to be sued for tons of money. But you know what I found out this week? I heard it through someone on talk radio. Apparently, a national tort reform law would be absolutely unconstitutional. Some of the states have tort reform laws, as it relates to the medical field, and many don't. But because the medical practice is governed by states and is really not under the United States Constitution anywhere, a tort reform law, they're saying, would be unconstitutional.
Listen, look, there are some people who palm themselves off as constitutional authorities. I hope I'm not guilty of being one of them. Let me tell you this. It depends. It depends on the limitations for pain and suffering, the limitations that are imposed on pain and suffering. And there's another element, and that, of course, is the punishment element. And quite often when I've read the results of some of these cases or the findings and these huge, obscene amounts that have been brought to our attention, part of that is pain and suffering. The other part, to punish the person, to punish them, which would seem to be that they were guilty of some nefarious intent. So therein is the argument, those who say it's unconstitutional. I say it is constitutional to place a limit as to how much you can ask. You see these things, for example, there's only recently a smoking case. $300 million for someone who was affected by, guess what kind of smoking? Secondhand smoke. $300 million. Hey, I should have been on that subway myself. All right, thank you very much. Straight ahead. And we don't have too much time left. Let's make the most of what we do have. William, checking in from Westchester County. Go ahead, William.
Hi, Bob. How you doing? A number of your callers today have been complaining about powerlessness. I have a solution. An announcement was made by Deborah Burlingame, Peter King, and others on Tuesday. That's Saturday next week, the 5th of December, 12 o'clock, there will be a demonstration at Foley Square opposing the Obama-Holder decision to hold a terrorist trial for KSM here in Manhattan.
Well, I'm delighted to hear you say that. I want you to repeat it so that anybody listening who wants to join in.
Foley Square.
I'm sure there are good Americans listening right now. Go ahead.
Right, at Foley Square in Manhattan, right near the federal courthouse, next Saturday at 12 o'clock. Peter King, Deborah Burlingame, other representatives of the 9/11 families are organizing this, and I suspect a number of speakers along that line will be there. Let's all come on out and show our opinion on that. We have the power. Send it back to Gitmo, where these people will not get any constitutional rights.
I think if I could get the transportation, I would be there myself because this is precisely what we need. And I say, folks, I say this, God bless Peter King. Thank you very much, William. All right, just remember that, Foley Square, next Saturday at noontime. Maybe I could get some of my friends on the job to, I won't go into that right now. Let's say hello. Let's say hello to Dominic from Scarsdale. Hello, Dominic.
Good afternoon, Bob. It's a pleasure to speak to you. I've been listening to you for many years, ever since my father-in-law suggested that I tune you in to get up to speed on what was going on. He was the U.S. Marshal for the Southern District of New York, Romolo Aimondi.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Whatever happened to Romolo?
Well, he's retired now, and he's in his early 90s, and he's getting along.
Really? That son of a gun. Listen, if you get a chance, give him my regards. He's one of my all-time favorite people.
I certainly will, Bob. And he was a big fan of yours and remains a big fan to today, as do all of us in the family. Bob, what I was calling about was that recently I had occasion to author a book. I view the book as a public service, and it was the focus of the cumulative effect of all the different taxation we pay. And now that this health care bill is sort of on the agenda of the politicians, my major concern is that it will truly break the back of many people. And, people fail to, comprehend the global scope of taxation. They only address sort of the federal level. But beyond that, there's the state and local level, many of which interact with many of the federal programs. And this is why people are so concerned. They don't understand why they have less and less money, to sustain themselves. And there are so many different types of taxation that are virtually bankrupting the American citizen.
Not virtually. They are bankrupting us.
Yes. Well, that's the name of my book, Bankrupting Joe the Taxpayer, and I did a deep dive on research and found, to what your earlier caller mentioned, about the health care reform. Tort reform is, I think, something that people are misinterpreting. What you said was more on the point of what the problem is. There has to be limits on the awards. There has to be limits on punishment and penalties. The states individually can set limits. In fact, the states themselves should be the ones offering the malpractice insurance so that they can fund the awards to the people who are the victims of some unfortunate event. So that's my solution to that. But it's what you said at the very beginning of the program. We are at fault. We vote these people in, and we have the power to vote them out. I encourage everyone in my book to use the power of the vote to get these self-serving people out of office who are destroying our great nation. And I thank you for all the good service that you've done with your airtime for America, Bob.
Thank you, and give my regards to that legendary father-in-law of yours, will you?
I certainly will, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. Let's say hello now to Detective Joe, retired Detective Joe. Yes, hello. Are you there? Joe Cornetta, is he there?
Yes, Bob, Mr. Grant.
Yes.
How are you, sir? I know Mike well, and I know the old ABC crowd, and I heard you call out for some transportation. It would be my honor if you really need it. We'd get you there, no problem.
Why don't you leave your number with Mike?
Yes.
And then we'll take it from there, okay?
Mr. Grant, it's an honor.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
All right, let's say hello to Karen from Manhattan. Yes, Karen. Are you there, Karen? Hello? Bad connection. All right, let's try... I think we could take one more call. Squeeze in William from Westchester County. Go ahead, William. He's gone. Alan from Staten Island, are you there? All right, I'm not going to waste anybody's time
All right.
here.
Number one, I would like to know when this health plan consisting of 2,200 pages was drawn up, where was it drawn up, and who sat at the round table to draw it up. It seems that it came out there very quickly, so it appears to me, that this may have been done, maybe months before he became president.
God bless you. You would make a good detective. You're absolutely right, Alan. And here is a follow-up to what you're saying.
Right.
How is it that this administration, which claimed it was going to be the most transparent administration in history, how is it that Harry Reid ordered all the doors closed and locked? Nobody from the media could get in. Nobody could witness any kind of conversation, any kind of discussion whatsoever.
Yep.
There we go, folks. This is what we've got. This is what we've got. And you know how I feel? This may upset some people, but hey, I'm used to upsetting people. I feel like a Frenchman must have felt in 1940 in Paris when he looked out the window and he no longer saw Frenchmen as head of his government, but the Nazis who were occupying his country.
100% right.
You know, that's the way I feel. I feel like we are occupied by a foreign country.
I want to tell you one thing. I was an adjuster for 40 years, all right? So I have an investigative background. And there's so many things that come to my mind, but you just haven't got that time to get on the radio and explain what you're feeling and how it is. But I do remember one thing. When you mentioned MCA this morning, I thought of you and I thought of Danny Meenan.
Okay, that was a great guy.
He was. I really enjoyed him. Okay, have a good weekend. Good talking to you. And
Thank you,
I
Al.
always said, God bless America and let it stay America.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to that time when I say that slams the lid on things for today. And you have been listening to the Larry Kudlow program. I appreciate being able to sit in for Larry. I want to tell you, he's a legendary figure on Wall Street, and he's I think he's too modest to come forth and say, you're right, Bob, but he is. Anyway, for Larry and everybody else, Bob Grant reminding you, you're